My garden is thriving like never before, and the secret ingredient is something you'd never expect. It's a bit smelly, very unconventional, and completely changed the game for my soil. Join me as I pull back the curtain on my audacious kimchi waste experiment and show you the shocking results of feeding my plants fermented leftovers. Picture this. You've just finished your last spoonful of that tangy, spicy kimchi from the jar, and you're about to rinse that precious brine down the drain. Stop right there. That liquid gold you're about to waste contains a powerhouse of nutrients and beneficial microorganisms that your garden is literally dying for. The leftover kimchi juice, those wilted cabbage leaves at the bottom of the jar, and even that slightly funky-smelling brine that's been sitting in your fridge for weeks. All of it represents an untapped goldmine for soil health. Traditional composting methods often miss this incredible resource because most gardeners don't think beyond typical kitchen scraps like banana peels and coffee grounds. But here's what makes fermented foods like kimchi so special for your soil. They're already predigested by beneficial bacteria. The fermentation process has broken down complex organic compounds into forms that plants can immediately access, while simultaneously cultivating colonies of lactobacillus and other soil-friendly microorganisms. These bacteria don't just feed your plants, they actively fight off harmful pathogens and create a thriving underground ecosystem. When I first considered this experiment, I'll admit I was skeptical. The science was intriguing, but would my plants actually benefit from what essentially amounts to spicy, fermented garbage? The fermentation process creates lactic acid, which naturally lowers soil pH, perfect for acid-loving plants. It also produces enzymes that help break down organic matter, making nutrients more bioavailable. Plus, the salt content, while potentially concerning, is actually beneficial in small doses, helping plants regulate water uptake and improve stress tolerance. So, I dedicated a 4x8-foot raised bed to this experiment, choosing a spot with identical sun exposure and drainage to my control bed. The existing soil was typical suburban clay loam, with a pH around 6.8, nothing special, but consistent across both test areas. This consistency was, crucial because I wanted to isolate the kimchi effect from other variables that might skew my results. The application method required careful consideration. Fresh kimchi brine is potent stuff, too concentrated, and it could burn delicate root systems or create salt buildup that would harm rather than help. After researching fermentation pH levels and honestly consulting with a soil scientist friend, I settled on a 1:10 dilution ratio for the brine. For every cup of kimchi liquid I mixed it with 10 cups of water. The solid kimchi remnants got chopped into smaller pieces and worked directly into the soil at a depth of 4 to 6 inches, ensuring they wouldn't come into direct contact with plant roots initially. I applied this mixture weekly for the first month, then switched to bi-weekly applications as I monitored how the plants responded. Within the first week, I noticed the most intriguing change wasn't visible above ground. It was the soil's smell and texture. The treated bed developed an earthy, almost wine-like aroma that was distinctly different from the untreated control. When I dug small test holes, the soil felt more crumbly and seemed to retain moisture better, suggesting that the fermentation byproducts were already improving soil structure. By week 4, the visual differences between my kimchi bed and the control group were undeniable. The plants in the treated bed displayed deeper green foliage and more robust stem development. My tomatoes were setting fruit earlier, and the pepper plants were noticeably bushier with more flowering sites. But the real surprise came when I started noticing the pest situation, or rather, the lack thereof. The kimchi-treated bed experienced significantly fewer aphid infestations and almost no slug damage, while the control bed required regular intervention. I suspect the fermentation byproducts created an environment that beneficial insects found attractive while deterring harmful pests. The spicy compounds from the kimchi, including capsaicin and various sulfur compounds, likely acted as natural pest deterrents. Additionally, the enhanced microbial activity in the treated soil may have strengthened the plant's natural defense systems, making them less attractive targets for pests. The soil transformation continued to amaze me. What started as dense, somewhat compacted earth had become loose, rich, and teeming with visible earthworm activity. When I performed soil core samples, the treated bed showed dramatically improved water infiltration rates and a notably darker color, indicating higher organic matter content. The smell had evolved from that initial wine-like aroma to a rich forest floor scent that practically screamed healthy soil ecosystem. You know, the numbers don't lie, and after a full growing season, the results were, well, staggering. Plants in the kimchi-treated bed produced an average of 23% more fruit by weight compared to the control group. And get this, the tomatoes were not only more numerous but also larger with improved flavor complexity. I measured this using a refractometer. The treated tomatoes averaged 1.2 points higher on the Brick scale. That indicates increased sugar content and nutrient density, which is pretty impressive, right? But hey, the real test came at the dinner table. Side-by-side taste comparisons revealed that vegetables from the kimchi bed had more intense, developed flavors. The peppers were more aromatic, the herbs more pungent, and even the leafy greens had a more robust taste profile. This improvement likely resulted from the enhanced nutrient uptake facilitated by the improved soil microbiology, allowing plants to access and concentrate flavor compounds more effectively. Now, addressing the elephant in the room, yes, I was initially concerned about salt accumulation and potential long-term soil damage. However, soil testing at the end of the season showed that salt levels remained within acceptable ranges. This was likely because the organic matter improvements enhanced the soil's ability to process and buffer these minerals. The key was consistent dilution and never applying the mixture to dry soil, which could concentrate salts around root zones. This experiment proved that, thinking outside the traditional composting box can yield some pretty remarkable results. The success of my kimchi waste treatment really opens doors to exploring other fermented kitchen byproducts that, honestly, most gardeners overlook. Sauerkraut brine offers similar benefits but with different mineral profiles, while kombucha scobies that have outlived their usefulness can actually be chopped and worked into soil as slow-release nutrient sources rich in beneficial yeasts and bacteria. So, the key principles that made this experiment successful can honestly be applied to any fermented food waste. First, dilute appropriately to prevent salt burn, then incorporate it gradually so your soil biology has time to adjust, and finally, maintain consistent moisture levels to support all those important microbial processes. Even the liquid from fermented pickles, the dregs from homemade wine, or, the mother from apple cider vinegar can potentially benefit your garden when you apply them thoughtfully. I'd suggest starting small with just a single raised bed or maybe a few container plants, just to see how your specific soil and climate respond to these fermented amendments. Make sure you document your observations with photos and notes, measuring both plant performance and soil changes over time. Every garden ecosystem is unique, and what worked spectacularly in my suburban clay soil might honestly need some tweaks for your sandy loam or Rocky Mountain soil. The real beauty of this approach lies not just in the dramatic plant improvements, but in the sustainable cycle it creates. Instead of tossing out fermented food remnants, you're actually completing a natural loop that feeds your soil, strengthens your plants, and, in the end, produces better food for your table. It's gardening with intention, using resources that would otherwise become waste to create abundance right in your own backyard. This kimchi experiment has, honestly, changed the way I look at kitchen scraps and soil amendments. It's reminded me that the best gardening solutions often come from unexpected places, and that our ancestors' wisdom about fermentation goes way beyond just food preservation. It's about soil stewardship too. So, are you ready to start your own fermented garden revolution? Go ahead and grab that jar of kimchi from your fridge, dilute that brine, and give your plants a taste of something extraordinary. Your soil and your dinner table will thank you. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to the Living Soil Lab for more unconventional gardening experiments and soil building secrets. Share this guide with fellow gardeners who aren't afraid to get a little funky with their fertilizer.